Well, good morning and welcome to today's webinar. This is the first in a series of 4 Lutheran Service Builder training webinars. Today, we are starting right at the very beginning. We are going to be talking about service planning and global search, and that's it. We're not going to get into building a service quite yet. We're going to plan it out. We're going to go through all of the key features that you're going to need to get started. My name is Peter Frank. I am the Senior Manager of Marketing Technology here at Concordia Publishing House. Now that's a fancy title to say that I do 2 things. One, I market our technology. So you've probably received emails from me. You've probably seen the webinar email to sign up here. You've probably seen other emails, especially during this time of year when we are all staying at home due to the COVID-19 virus. I've sent out some hopefully helpful resources to you. So if you get emails from me, that's why. I work with our technology products through both Concordia Technology Solutions, which is our church administration division, and then also with our other software products like Lutheran Service Builder, which is technically in our music team department. It's not all about music, it's service planning, but I work with that group too. Now on the other side of things, I manage our marketing technology. So I'm in charge of our e-commerce site, cph.org. So if there's ever an issue with cph.org, you can reach out to me and I will do my best to help you. We are in the middle of a big project where we're going to be launching a new site at the end of the year. So we've got a lot of exciting things going on here at CPH. A little bit about my background. I am a graduate of Concordia University, Wisconsin. I studied theology and biblical languages. I had experience in business before that. So I've kind of taken all of that, combined it with my love for technology, and have a wonderful position here at CPH. And one of my main jobs is to help you in the church use technology to further the work of the kingdom, to fill out or live out your vocations, whatever they may be, and have technology aid you in that. Hopefully technology itself is not your vocation. Your vocation is serving the Lord in anything that He's called you to. And at least in the church, we've got software to help you with that. So a little bit about us. You probably know about Concordia Publishing House if you work in the church. But if you don't know about us, we are the publishing arm of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, and we have been since 1869. You can see a portion of our employees there. That was from the beginning of our 150th year celebration. Now that was, this picture was actually taken in 2018. And the group of people goes far beyond the borders that I could fit in there, but we had a drone take our picture right outside the building. It was a wonderful year-long celebration, and it's just a great thing to know that we serve the church and have been doing so for now 151 years. The Lord has blessed us in many ways, and one of those ways is through technology. We are able to adapt to the changing times and provide resources for churches that meet the needs of today. And we've been doing that for a long time. Actually, since 1984, we've been producing software. Now, today we're going to be talking about Lutheran Service Builder. Now, Lutheran Service Builder, if you are not familiar with that, and I know that some of you are brand new to Lutheran Service Builder, Lutheran Service Builder is our web-based software that allows churches to plan services, create custom bulletin interiors, export presentations for use during the worship service, and also generate playlists and to conform with playlists to play in the service, and then also to conform with copyright requirements. There's a lot that's going on here, and that's why we've got 4 different webinars to talk about all these different things. So we're going to be talking about the online version. Lutheran Service Builder was actually launched as a PC-based product. And it's kind of a fun story. So back in 2004 to 2006, Lutheran Service Builder was developed by a seminarian, Bob Lael. It started out as an idea during one of his worship classes where he thought, well, this would be a lot easier if I had a hymnal search engine. Now, if you're familiar with Lutheran hymnody, there in that time was when we were developing the Lutheran Service Book here at Concordia Publishing House and in conjunction with the Commission on Worship at the LCMS. And so Bob pitched this idea to his professor, who had some different connections that kind of went up the chain to Synod and also to CPH. And he got to present the product idea at the International Center. It's a great story of how he showed how he could build a bulletin in 5 minutes and print it out and everything. And so CPH loved the idea. We bought the product off of him, and then we hired him to finish developing it and support it for a number of years. Now, Bob has moved on from CPH to different things. I still keep in touch with him, and he still helps us on a contract basis. So he's still very much involved in Lutheran Service Builder. But while he was here, he built up a team of developers. In fact, we have 3 other pastors. Bob graduated from seminary and was called here to serve at CPH. And we've since called 3 other LCMS pastors, as well as other developers, to continue the work that he started. So it's just so cool to see how God used Bob in a variety of different ways, but specifically here today with Lutheran Service Builder that you're all using. So if you want to know more about the story, we've got a series of videos that we produced before we launched the online version, kind of to get everybody ready for it. It's just a great way to see how God works through everybody in their different vocations. All right, so I mentioned that we're doing 4 training sessions this week. The first one today is about service planning and global search. We're going to start at the very basics. If you've been using Service Builder for a while, you're going to know most of this, but it'll be good to get that firm foundation. I'm sure you're going to pick up some tips and tricks along the way. I'm going to highlight some of the different things we've added since we launched Lutheran Service Builder in the online version. We've got some new stuff that we've been working on even just recently that I'll show over the course of this week. But today, that's what we're doing. The next session, which if you're watching live, will be tomorrow, Tuesday. We're going to be looking at bulletins and bulletin formats. And then Wednesday, the 3rd session, is presentations and presentation formats. Now, these 2 sessions will follow a very similar outline where we're going to take what we planned today and put it into reality of saying, how are we going to distribute this to our members? Are we going to distribute it in print, or are we going to distribute it electronically, or are we going to project it? So they'll follow that same kind of model and using the information that we compile today. And then on Thursdays, we're going to change it up a little bit. We're going to talk about My Worship resources and other add-ons. And this is really the advanced stuff. There's a lot of different things that you can do that are not an absolute requirement in Builder. You know, there's some key things within like bulletins that everybody does. But within My Worship resources and some of these other add-ons, these are really the kind of extra stuff that can be very helpful, but is advanced and is not necessarily as intuitive. So we're going to dig into that, and I'm sure that's going to be a popular course as well. But today, we're talking about service planning and global search. Now, before we get too far, I've got a few housekeeping items for you. First off, I want to thank you again for attending live or watching the recording after the fact. This is one of our, in fact, as I was looking before, this is officially the highest registration we've ever had for a webinar. Now, part of that is that before this series of webinars, we upgraded our webinar plan so that we could take more people. We've had enough requests. In the past, we had to limit registration. We've expanded it now. And so even with these free webinars, we're able to offer it to more and more people. So we didn't have to turn anybody away, which was great. All right, today, we're going to present for about 75 minutes. And when I say we, it's just me. Sometimes I talk in that royal first person plural kind of way, but I'm going to present for 75 minutes, and then I'm hoping to leave 15 minutes for questions. Now, I have mentioned this before we started. I'm used to presenting all of Lutheran Service Builder in about an hour. And so I'm used to talking quickly, getting as much information out there as possible. I'm going to try to slow it down today, and that's going to be hard for me because I'm not used to that. So if I'm going too quickly, just say, Peter, slow it down, you've got time. We've got 75 minutes for the presentation. We've got more time for question and answers. So I'm just going to start off with that. Now, as we are going about this, I will be the only one presenting, and all of you will be muted. We've got triple digits today. It's going to continue to expand. I think I'm watching the numbers go up. So that's fantastic. I don't know about you, but if you've ever been on a call with a handful of people and everybody is unmuted, that gets tough. If I had everybody here unmuted, you wouldn't be able to hear anything. And so everybody's going to be muted today, but we do want to get your participation. I want to make sure that this is interactive. And so I'm asking you to ask questions throughout. Now, some of you have already had some experience with this. I can see you asking questions. Those of you who let me know that you could hear me ahead of time, and we've got a long list of that. Thank you so much for that. I've got Jonica, Jennifer, Mark, John, Joan, Don, Karen, Marcia, Connie, Laura, Angela, Marcia, Annalise, Michael. There's so many people there. So thank you so much. I could continue to go down the list. But if there are questions for me, please put them in there. Now, one of my associates, Tim, on our support team, he is logged on as well, and he's going to be answering questions as we go through. Now, I do hope to swing back around during that 15 minutes at the end to answer these for the benefit of everybody. But this way, if you ask a question, you can get your answer without it interrupting the presentation. In fact, sometimes I answer the questions later on in the presentation just because of my outline. But we want to make sure that everybody gets their answers. So ask questions throughout, and then at the very end, I'm going to share the link to the recording. So this is automatically recording as we go. I'm going to put it in our resource center, and then I'll send you a link to that either later today or tomorrow. I'm hoping to, since it's a morning webinar, I should have enough time to get it out still today. Sometimes it takes a little while to get it uploaded and get the emails ready, but that's my intention for today. So before we go too far, I want to let you know that I do make some assumptions about everybody who attends my classes. And there's different assumptions depending on what class. But today, I am assuming that you understand the basics of Lutheran worship. A few years ago, I led a class to introduce Lutheran Service Builder as a whole. And I started off the first one going through the different elements of Lutheran worship. And I think that was a good class. I got a lot of good feedback from it. But what I did hear was from, especially for the pastors, they said, well, we know all of this. I'd rather just get into Lutheran Service Builder. And even some of the administrative assistants, people who, are not seminary trained, but have been working with Lutheran worship for a while, that was a bit too simple for them. So there's a lot of wonderful resources out there, especially from CPH, on Lutheran worship. And so we're not really going to get into that today. So I'm going to assume you understand the basics of that. I'm also going to assume that you have subscribed to Lutheran Service Builder and the LSB hymn license. Now, I'm going to assume that, but if you have not, it's not going to mean that this isn't valuable for you. In fact, we're going to talk about the different licenses and what those mean. But as we go through this whole week, there's going to be things in here that are going to require you to have Lutheran Service Builder and the hymn license. So just know that's my assumption. But if you have not signed up for those yet, you're still going to get value out of this. And maybe by the end of that, this is what you'll want to do. But that's my assumption. And finally, and this is a big one, I'm going to assume you are using the online version of Lutheran Service Builder. Now, back in 2006, when Bob launched Lutheran Service Builder with CPH, that was Lutheran Service Builder 1. In 2008, we launched Lutheran Service Builder number 2. When in 2018, a full 10 years later, we didn't launch Lutheran Service Builder number 3 because this is not going to be just the next in a series of Lutheran Service Builders. This is the final Lutheran Service Builder, and it will just continue to progress over time. I don't see a future where there's things that are not web-based, but we didn't see a future where there were things that were web-based 20 plus years ago. So I don't want to say that for sure, but I'm pretty sure that this current product that we have will just continue to be developed and improved, or we're not going to do a complete rewrite. So we just call this the online version of Lutheran Service Builder. Now, if you are using Lutheran Service Builder 2 or 1, I encourage you to move up to the online version. We've officially ended support for version 1 because that was deprecated in 2008, or at least it was outdated in 2008. We're now in 2020, so that's 12 years ago since we've moved on from 1. So we no longer support that. We still support Lutheran Service Builder 2. But Tim, I think I hear you talking. I'm going to go ahead and mute you. Actually, I think you already muted yourself. Not sure. Actually, not sure where that's coming from. If you guys are hearing something, I do apologize. Hopefully it's looks like we've got a phone caller who is on the line and making sound. I apologize for that. I'm going to go ahead and click mute all other participants. Good. I don't hear anything now. So sorry about that. I thought everybody was muted automatically, but maybe not. So that is okay. If you hear anything or if it's hard to hear me, put a note in the chat and I will make sure to address that as soon as I see it. All right, sorry for the interruption. I just wasn't expecting to hear anything. All right, so going back to that, Lutheran Service Builder 2 is still supported and will be supported for an indefinite amount of time. As we continue to have more and more people move to the online version, there will become a time that we no longer support Lutheran Service Builder 2. It has been a great product for us, but there are some key things that are a struggle. If you've ever tried to network Lutheran Service Builder 2 across multiple computers, you'll know that that can be rather difficult because of the server or the database that we have and installing that on servers. With the online version, we don't have that issue anymore. It's a web server that works great, so multiple people can use it without any problems. There's also the opportunity for us to release new features and improvements all the time. So there's no installing, no getting permission from the network security team, anything like that. You just get the advantage right away. So there's a lot of advantages to you. There's a lot of advantages to us to move online. There's a key thing that always I always get asked. It's no more money to move online. We don't charge an upcharge. You don't have to pay an upgrade fee. It's the same exact price whether you're using Lutheran Service Builder 2 or the online version. The one thing that we do is that if you have both of these licenses, we kind of align the subscriptions. And so sometimes we give a credit, sometimes there's a prorated fee just to get them aligned. But the out-of-pocket expense every year is exactly the same. So that should not be a barrier to moving online. The only barrier that I've heard that is absolutely legitimate is we don't have a good internet connection at our church. And I completely understand that. And so that's why we haven't ended support for Lutheran Service Builder 2. It will come at a point where we can no longer provide that support for both products. But that point is not today. So I encourage you to look at upgrading if you haven't already, but especially for these training webinars. We're going to be looking at the online version, and what I show here today will not really apply to Lutheran Service Builder 2. So I just want to be clear with that. All right, now I've done a lot of talking. I want to hear a little bit from you, but like I said before, I can't unmute everybody because then we're all going to be talking over each other. So I have a few poll questions for you. I'm going to go ahead and launch this first one here. And this will help me know more about who is here. And the question is, please select the option that most closely describes your primary role at church. Are you an ordained pastor? And that could be any pastor, senior, associate, interim, retired. Are you an administrator, an office manager, a secretary, a receptionist? Are you a church musician, director of parish music, music director, organist, whatever title you go by? Or are you another called church worker, deaconess, DCE, DCO? Or are you none of those things? If you are other, select other, and then maybe put a note in the chat and let me know what that other role is. I'd be curious. And while you guys do that, I'm going to take a quick look at the chat and make sure there's not any questions to answer related to the presentation right now. All right. Well, we are almost at the majority. All right, good. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close that poll. Thank you very much to everyone who answered that. Let me share the results with you. The results, oh, it's small on my screen, it's large on yours. Looks like the majority of you who are here today are administrators in the church, over 60% of you. But we also got about 20% of you who are pastors, 19 to be exact, 14% who are church musicians, and what is that, 6% that are other. So on my screen, it's really tiny. But thank you very much for answering those. All right, I've got another one for you. The next one here is, are you currently using Lutheran Service Builder in your congregation? And this could be, well, I should say online, preferably online, but just in general. I would assume the majority of you are using some version or another. This is meant for users, like I said, my assumption. But looks like, yeah, I'll give another few seconds for that. Looks like the high 80s are yes, and then we've got the rest split between no and no, but planning on it soon. So very good. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and close that poll. And I'm not gonna share those results because I just said them verbally. All right, and the last one. This one I'm curious about, and I'll share this one. What would you consider your Lutheran Service Builder skill level to be? Now, this helps me to know what level of detail I'm going to get in. There's some things that I can go on various, really high level or really dig into the details. But it looks like the majority of the people, I'll give it another few seconds for voting here. The majority are intermediate or below. In fact, we've got a pretty even split between those last three. And so that's kind of what I would expect, especially for this presentation today. As we get into Thursday's presentation, we might have some more experts in there. But today, I've got no one who considers themselves to be an expert, a handful of people who are advanced, and then not quite even, but pretty closely split between intermediate, novice, and newbie. So you guys are all in good company because you're almost all in that same round. So that's great. All right, well, let me make sure, good, you can see that. The goal for today, I always like to have a very specific training goal. By the end of the day, you will know how to set up your Lutheran Service Builder account and plan your first worship service. And that's a key verb in there, which is plan. We are not going to export anything today. We are going to plan the full service. Now, I say that, we're going to export a few things, but we're not going to export a full service. We're going to plan a full worship service. So the outline, we're going to talk about what the different trials and licenses mean. I want to make sure to clarify that for everybody so that you know where you're at. We're going to go into settings and users right off the bat, because if you are going to have other people learning this in your church, it's good to know how to invite them and be working off of the same account. Then we're going to look at the calendar, and that's a pretty simple view, but I want to make sure it's really the foundation of Lutheran Service Builder. And so I want to make sure you understand how that works. We're going to plan out a service. The service plan in the online version of Lutheran Service Builder is different than what it was in Lutheran Service Builder 2. So I want to clarify that. We're going to spend most of our time there today. And we're also going to look at global search. There's a lot of overlap between planning your service, searching for elements, and the global search. So, but we'll look at those two separately. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, before I jump into the online version, I want to start by talking about our different licenses. And this is probably going to be the most boring part of the whole presentation, would be my guess. So the licenses, we've got a number of different licenses, and they can be very confusing to people because they all sound kind of similar in terms of what they do. We have what we call our trial license. The trial license, well, we'll get into it on a whole separate slide. I'm jumping ahead. Then we have our software license. This is also known as our support license. Our support license also includes our liturgy license. So we'll talk about those things together. We've got our hymn license, and then we've got Concordiate Organist and Creative Worship. Now, those are what we would call add-ons. Those are separate from everything else. They are certainly by no means a requirement. They provide a lot of extra benefit, and we're not going to be talking about them really at all today. We're going to get into those on Thursday on our 4th session. So if you're not watching live and you're like, which one is Thursday? Our 4th session. But let's talk about the trial license first. And the trial license I like to talk about because there are impacts for you both before Builder and then after Builder as well. So trial license gives you read-only access to everything in the software, meaning you just can't export. You can go and use it. I mentioned Bob created Builder as a hymnal search engine. That's what he really wanted. Well, you can use that for free. You don't need to have the full license of Lutheran Service Builder to search for things. Now, to use it is a different story. There's no time limit on the trial license. And so if you are eager to get started, but you don't have approval from your congregation, so you're thinking, well, I'll just wait till I have approval, go ahead and get that. There's no time limit on it. We want people to be able to use this. We want people to dig into the church year and the calendar and the propers and all of that. So there's no time limit, no reason not to start and give it a shot. But that ability to export is turned off for the trial, and that's really because of copyrights. And also, that's how we support the whole rest of the software, is by charging for that aspect of it. Being able to actually use it, get it into a bulletin, get it into a presentation, get it online. In today's world, getting it online is a big deal. So we do charge for that aspect of it. But everything else up until that point is included in the trial. And the reason we don't allow you to export is that you have no rights to reproduce or use the content unless you pay for those rights. And as a publishing house, that is a key part of our business. We wouldn't exist if we didn't manage our copyrights correctly. We work with copyright holders of all shapes and sizes, fashions, and whether it's music copyright holders or text copyright holders, down to our books and periodicals and curriculum and everything like that. So that's really what it comes down to, is that when you subscribe to Lutheran Service Builder, you are paying for the right to use the content. But in the trial, we want to at least give you the chance to see it. You're just not using it in worship. So hopefully that's pretty clear. If you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat, and I will get to them during our Q&A time. Now, the software license still gives you full access to the software, but you also have the right to print and use the liturgy, as well as print and use public domain hymns. So that's what's included with Lutheran Service Builder software or support. The liturgy license is a separate thing that is included in the software license. So we have some churches who don't use Lutheran Service Builder at all, but they pay for the right to use the liturgy and reproduce it, and for hymns, which we'll talk about in a minute. But they're the ones who are typing it out or copy pasting from the last time they typed it out. Lutheran Service Builder makes that all easier. And they are also reporting it. So as you have the right to use this, use the different things within the software, it reports it for you. We also recently added the rights to stream and upload video recordings of those same things, the liturgy and the public domain hymns. So as long as you are subscribed to the software, you can stream those things, you can upload your recordings. It's just the hymns that are copyrighted that are not included in this license, but they are included in this license, the hymn license. So in order to use the hymn license with Lutheran Service Builder, you have to have the software license to Lutheran Service Builder. That's a question that's come up quite a bit recently, where you say, well, I already have the hymn license. Can't I just get into Builder to export the hymns? Well, no, you need to have a Service Builder license to use Service Builder, and then the hymns lets you extend it beyond the liturgy and the public domain hymns. This gives you the right to print most hymns, and there are a handful of exceptions. Those are included in the license agreement. I think it's a total of 9 different hymns with various levels of what you can and cannot do. But the 9 is kind of the whole body of it. There's only 2 that you can't use in your bulletin. Once we get into streaming and going online, it gets into international rights, and we don't have that for an additional 7. So make sure you look at your license agreement when you use the hymn license, so you know which hymns you can't use in those ways. But this also gives you the right to stream and upload the video recordings of those ones that you do have the right, all but 9 of them. All right, so that is the hymn license. There's a lot of questions that come up with that. I'm happy to answer most of them, but we also have a copyrights team that can answer the ones that I'm not able to answer. So we've had so many questions about copyrights over the last few months. Please don't hesitate to ask. It's always better to ask. I think in more cases than not, people are pleasantly surprised at what they're allowed to do versus disappointed in what they're not allowed to do. So that's been my experience. All right, now we're ready to get into the software. We're 30 minutes in, so I apologize for all the talking, but there's a lot of groundwork to lay. It's not going to be like this every day. So if you haven't already started using the online version of Lutheran Service Builder, you can start that today by setting up a free trial at lutheranservicebuilder.com. And so I'm going to switch my screen over here. Let's see. Oh, that is Cortana. Pardon me, I tried to close all of my notifications, but there's still a few things that come up from time to time, so pardon the noise. All right, so this is our Lutheran Service Builder website. And there's a lot of great things on here that tell you about the software. You can get down here to training. You can go to our blog. This is our contact on how you reach out to us. You don't need to go that far to start a trial. Just hit this blue button right here. And this is going to take you into this page. And this is what we require for a free trial. Your name, your email, and a password. And you can send it for our emails too. Now, right now, if you're watching live, you are very well aware that we are in the coronavirus, the COVID-19 time in our history where we are all sheltering in place. I'm in the office because nobody else is in the office. But if you're watching the recording, this doesn't apply to you. Right now, we are offering a free license to Lutheran Service Builder and the hymn license. And so that's what you see here. If you're watching the recording of this, I apologize. That most likely is not still in effect. But you can go ahead and sign up. Once you create an account, you will get an email. And when you click that, you can start using it. Now, I already have signed up, as you can imagine. So I'm just going to go ahead and sign in. All right, oops, there we go. So I signed in. I want to make sure everybody's following. I'm going to check. All right, good. So yeah, there's some questions coming in that I'm going to answer in a few moments. All right, so if you see here, the first thing that I get to is to say select an account. You belong to more than one account. Which would you like to log into? Now I've got Resurrection Lutheran Church and Test. Now, I'm not going to get into this too much because I don't think it applies to everybody, or maybe even to a good number of people, but to a few people. You might have a personal account where you are using it, especially like pastors who often are called to another congregation. And there might be some things that you like to use. Well, you are welcome to have a free trial for yourself and be part of a paid version, and you can kind of collect things as you go. Now, if you don't have the license, you can't export them, but you can store them. And then when you move to the new church, you could bring them back over, have the proper licenses, and use them again. Or if you're creating your own resources and you want to put them in a place, you can do that. But you may not want to store that on Church A's account, because when you move to Church B, then you won't have access to this anymore. So we allow you to have multiple accounts. And the way to get that set up is through users. And we're going to look at that shortly. So I don't want to go into that too much, but I did want to highlight this screen here to let you know that possibility exists. And again, having pastors on staff here who are developing the software, they understand this kind of thing. They understand the need to be able to bring some of these things with as you move into a new account or a new church. Keep that same account for you, but be able to use these resources at your new church. So I wanted to highlight that. There's probably going to be questions that come up when that happens. I can say most of you are not in that situation right now. Although I did see on Facebook this weekend that one of my friends up in Minnesota, it was his last week at his current church, and he's moving to a new church. And because of the coronavirus, he wasn't able to say goodbye to people. So they had a nice parade for him. So I know at least one person who's in that situation right now, but most of you probably aren't. So we're going to go ahead and log into Resurrection Lutheran Church. And we get right into the calendar. Now, I've got a whole section planned on the calendar. So before I go too far into that, I'm going to go up into the settings area. And the settings area is up in this top right. It's this little cog button. Hopefully you can see it up here. When I click on the drop down, that should come across for you. So that drop down there shows all of your things that you use on a regular basis, but not every day. So you can jump back to your calendar from here. We have our global search, which we'll be looking at later today. My worship resources, which will be in session 4. Import from LSBX files. Now, LSBX files are the kind of proprietary format that we use in Lutheran Service Builder 2. We are not creating Lutheran Service Builder or LSBX files as of May 31st or 30th, forget how many days are in May, at the end of May in 2020. So if you have LSBX files from previous uses, you can still bring those in. We're just not going to be creating them anymore. Bulletin formats will be session 2. Presentation formats will be session 3. Account settings will be in just a moment, but preferences I want to talk about real quickly. So down here under preferences, this is for you as the user. These are very minimal. Once you sign up, this probably won't change, but if you need to change your email, this is where you go. And so this is where I put my email. If you have an email that is tied to the church and you get a call somewhere else, then you might change it here. And I'm putting that in the context of called workers. I know that there are a lot of people who are not in a called position who will move on to a different church. So I don't want to feel like I'm excluding you. It's just more common that we hear people are called to another church. So just know I don't want to exclude you from that either. But this is where you go to change your email. All right, now we're going to get back up into settings and go to account settings and walk through some of these things. Now, church name, that's pretty straightforward. I would guess that that will not change very frequently. But I want to show this next section here. This next section has your locations. Now, not every church is going to need to worry about this, but I want you to think outside the box on this, on where you might have different locations. So for example, we have Resurrection Lutheran Church and Resurrection Lutheran School. Now, at my church, we are Salem Lutheran Church and School. We are one and the same. We operate together. We are, on the same piece of property. All of that is one and the same. But at the school, we have chapel services. And of course, at our church, we have our regular weekly and then occasionally midweek services. There might be some times where you have a lot of service going on for two different purposes, like in this case, at church and school, and you have different people managing that, or you just want to manage it separately. You could add in a different location here. Now, of course, location gives you the idea that there might be a multi-site location. And while that's not as common in the LCMS as it is in some other church bodies, it does happen. And I think I'm hearing of it more and more. And so if you are a single church entity with multiple sites, you can also use this here. So we have that option available for you. This is also where you'd go to pick your lectionary. Now we have two options for lectionary. We have the 3-year lectionary and the historic 1-year lectionary. Now based on our research here at CPH, which is essentially asking you, our customers, we find that just under 10% of our churches are using the historic lectionary. And so it is not a large number that uses 1 year, but we know there are a lot of you out there. Still, just under 10% is hundreds of congregations. So we support the 1-year lectionary, and that will change things. Typically, though, when I present, I'm presenting using the 3-year lectionary because it is the majority of congregations. So just know that we are not excluding you historic 1-year lectionary churches. That is where you go to change it. And chances are you're not changing your lectionary too frequently. So we have it kind of tucked away here. So if you have been struggling with, we're 1 year, but I keep getting all these 3-year readings, this is where you can go to change it. All right, down here, we have the listing of users. There are two types of roles within Lutheran Service Builder. You've got your owners and you've got your users. And you can make users owners, and you can demote owners to users, but you always have to have one owner. Now, there's really not much difference between a user and an owner. The only difference is that owners manage users. Does that make sense? Kind of circular there. So if you want to invite people to be a user, you start there with a new invitation and you put in their email address and you send it. And it's going to invite them to this church. Now, if they already have a Lutheran Service Builder account, it will just be another account that they can access. So going back to what I showed when I first logged in, where you can have multiple accounts, that is based around a user, based around an email address. And so two different churches can invite the same person using the same email address, and now that person can access both of those. And their role could be different in each. They could be an owner over here and a user over there, but it's one account for a person, and then they're connected to their churches. Now, once you invite them, then you could choose to make them an owner, and that's by going here. So if I wanted to make CTS Community an owner, I say they'll be able to manage locations and users. Yeah, locations is the one other thing. Once you set up a location, though, you don't really manage it too much. So it gives you this warning and tells you what they'll be able to do. I'm going to hit cancel because I like having this up here as an example, but that's really the only difference from it. But when you think about what that means at your church, how many different people might need to participate in the planning of the service, this provides a tremendous benefit of that you just invite them once and now they can work on the same service that you're working on. And even if it's just for being able to view it and see what's coming up, you have that access. And you can access it from any device, really. There's certain restrictions on your phone. You can't actually plan the whole service, but I don't know who wants to plan the whole service, or at least build out the bulletin. You can do the actual service planning that we're doing today from your phone. But whether it's on your tablet or your laptop or your desktop, whether it's at the office administrator's computer or the music director's computer, you can access all of it from the same place. All right, so that is users. If you have any questions, let me know. And I'm trying to jump in here and look, it's so good to have Tim on the line to answer these questions. But now I see one here from Jonica. It says, how many accounts per church? Does it change the price? No, it doesn't. Again, it's a church entity, so you can't share an account with the church down the street. If you're separate entities, you need separate accounts. But if you are one church and you have multiple sites, or if you are a dual or a triple, or I've even heard of quadruple parishes, they can have one account. That's one exception we've made over the years because it's usually one pastor. Now, that's the key. If it's one pastor serving multiple congregations, you can pay with one account because typically that one pastor is planning the services for all three. So that's where it kind of breaks down. If you have multiple churches that are separate entities, separate pastors, all of that, you can't share an account. But you can have multiple locations if you are one church or a dual, triple, or quadruple parish. And in terms of users, you can have as many owners as you want and as many users as you want, and it's not going to affect your fees at all. We used to charge seat licenses. We got rid of that several years back just because it was not conducive to ministry. We don't want you to be sharing accounts. Why worry about sharing accounts when we can just give you as many accounts as possible? You do have to have separate email addresses. That is a key thing. All right. So next, licenses. We probably should change the name to say like third-party licenses. There are other licenses out there like One License, CCLI, a number of different ones out there that provide the rights to use other songs and hymns. Many of them are our own at CPH. I'm not going to get into too many details because that leads to questions that I can't answer. But what I can tell you with licenses is that if you do subscribe to one of these other licenses, you can go in here and put in the name and put in the number, save it. And so let's say CCLI, and this is not an actual license number. You can go and save it. Then when you are using a song or hymn that is not covered under the LSB hymn license, but is covered under CCLI, you'll get a pop-up that says, well, this is not covered. And you can say, oh, I have the CCLI license. Let's use that to say, yep, I'm covered. And it'll print out CCLI license number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And it'll put that in your bulletin or in your presentation, and it'll show everybody that is there that you have the rights to use that hymn. You still have to report it to that third party, and that's a key difference. We do not report to any other third parties. We only report if you use the LSB hymn license, and we pay out those royalties. So if you subscribe to other licenses, you can put them in here, you can use them, you can say, yes, I have the right to use it. You still have to report it. That's on you, not on us. So hopefully that distinction is clear. And you can have multiple ones. You may have CCLI and one license and hymn license just to make sure you're covered from all different angles. That's your prerogative, but you can use them in here. You just still have to report on your own. All right, now we have content subscriptions. So these will be covered in detail in our 4th session. These are only content subscriptions that we provide. This is a relatively new thing. We didn't have this when we launched the online version, and we'll go into more detail. These are the two options right now, creative worship and let us pray. Now, we foresee a future where there are many different kinds of content subscriptions, and it'll probably look a little bit different than this. But we don't necessarily know what that entails right now, and we'd love to get your feedback. Anything that is in our publishing house that we produce, we are looking for opportunities to bring it into Lutheran Service Builder. But we know there's other opportunities outside of our building too. So if you've got ideas, let us know. There's all sorts of legal things that go into sharing content through a service such as Lutheran Service Builder. So it is not a simple process. It is not a quick process. It may not ever happen if you share an idea. But if you don't share an idea, and we never hear that from anybody else, I can guarantee you it won't happen. So feel free to share your ideas with the proper expectations that there's a lot that goes into doing it. It's not just a flip of a switch, but we'd love to hear what you would like to see included in this. And you may not know any or have any ideas right now, but once we get into it on the 4th session, you can say, oh, now that you share that, I could see you using XYZ in here. That'd be really cool to hear what you think. So that's content subscriptions. We'll get into that more. And then lastly, they call this the danger zone. This is where you can go to delete your account. And you can only do this once. And I don't know why you'd want to do that, but we do provide you that option. So if you want to wipe everything out, go here, delete your account. Don't come asking us to recover it because we can't. So we put this in here so that you have that option, but I'm hoping you'll never need to use it. I'm just going to scroll up here so I don't accidentally click it. So that's your account settings. There is a lot in there, but most of it you don't use on a daily basis. All right, I'm going to pause here, take a drink. And yeah, we've got some questions coming out. We'll answer some of those later on. I want to dig into the calendar. All right, if you'll remember, we're using the 3-year lectionary, and there's different holidays in the historic lectionary, especially in Lent. So I can't remember the Latin for the life of me, but I know that there are Latin names for the ones, Gesimas and other things. So pardon me for not remembering them, but I'm using 3-year here. So you can see that those different holidays are in place. Now, the calendar at its very core shows the holidays according to the lectionary. And there are things that show up here that your church may never do. Tuesday and Holy Week. I don't hear of a lot of churches doing a Tuesday and Holy Week service, but that is part of the lectionary. And I think like if we get into, go to November, you'll see there's not a Thanksgiving service here, but a lot of churches have Thanksgiving services. So there's, it's tied to the lectionary. The lectionary does not always have those holidays assigned, and I'm not going to get into why, because for one, I don't know all the reasons, and two, I know that they can be hotly contested, and I don't want to get into that right now either. So if you see something that is there that is surprising, or if you don't see something that you think should be there, you can blame the lectionary. And trust me, I've had a lot of people like, well, this should be there. There's an error in the software. Nope, blame the lectionary. We've thoroughly tested this. I can almost guarantee you that it is going to be with the lectionary and not with the software. So as you go through here and you can see the different holidays, there's one thing to be looking for, and that's really, is the text bold? Because if it is not bold, then it means that this is on the calendar. And if it is bold, it means it's on the calendar and there is a service plan for it. There's the proper distinction between bold and not bold is just that there is or is not a service plan. And so as you look through here, you'll typically see previous ones are bold and future ones are not bold, but it won't always be that case. Now, as you are going to plan a service, we assume that you're going to plan it on a service where there's a holiday, a church holiday, meaning an occasion in the church year, not go and have a party kind of holiday. When you see those here, you'll also see the proper liturgical color, And so you've got red and you've got black and then you've got white there. It's kind of hard to see during Easter. And you can imagine that the majority of the year, you're going to see green. There we go. So that's what those indicate. And you may have something where you call it something different, or you prefer to write it in a different way. So for example, we're going to be looking at Easter 3. When I go and click Easter 3, the first thing I get is the propers. So it says third Sunday of Easter. That sounds a little bit better than Easter 3. We put Easter 3 on the calendar because that's shorter and it fits, but it's really the third Sunday of Easter. Now, if you click on a day or a spot on the calendar where there is not a holiday, what you get is a new service. Because you're clicking on something that is not a holiday, we are assuming that you are creating a service that is not based on the propers. But if you do want to do something based on the propers, we still give you that option for a holiday. It shows you the holidays that are nearby it. Typically, we've done within the octave, although I've seen somewhere it extends beyond that. So you can see, let's make a better example. Today is the 20th. My parents' church, they have services on Thursday. So Thursday the 23rd, they would go in here and say, well, that is going to be the upcoming Sunday, so it's Easter 3. But it's on the 23rd, and it's for the third Sunday of Easter. You may even put in something like Thursday night, if it's going to be different than the rest of the weekend. Now, I should clarify, you don't have to do a separate service for every instance of the worship service. So at my church, we have Saturday night and Sunday morning at 8 and 10:30. I don't need to plan out 3 services. I only need to plan out 1. And it's up to my discretion where I put that service. So, and when I say me, I mean our church staff, because I'm not the one doing it for our church. But it's up to you where you want to put it if you're having a 1 service folder for all of the different services. But if you're doing different ones, you can do them accordingly and put something in the name so that it says Thursday night. You know, I know the Thursday night crowd does this differently than the Sunday morning crowd. So that is up to you, but that's where you'd go in and do that. But when you click on a proper, like I did before, it takes you directly to the propers view and assumes some things before you plan a service. First off, it's assuming the date, it's assuming the holiday, and it's assuming the name, because that's where you have it right here. So before we do that, I'll talk through what you see in the propers. You get the readings with the appropriate name. So in this case, the first reading is not an Old Testament reading. It's the first reading, it's from Acts. Then we have the Psalm, and it identifies the antiphon, verse 5, gracious is the Lord and righteous, our God is merciful. Then we have the epistle from 1 Peter, the gospel, and this one only has 1 gospel. Sometimes there are different versions or different lengths of the gospel, and it will show both. And that can be confusing because we offer other products that have the readings printed out, our bulletin inserts. And so sometimes a church will plan in Lutheran Service Builder using the 1 reading that is extended, and the insert will have the other reading that is not, or that maybe, you know, vice versa. Builder has the shortened one, or you choose the shortened one in Builder, and the insert has the longer one. So it's just something to pay attention to. It's not that it's wrong. It's not that we're inconsistent. It's when we're doing inserts, we have to make a choice. And in Builder, we don't have to. We can show both options and let you make that choice. So that's one thing to keep an eye on. All right, we'll go down more. There's the introit, and again, the antiphon is identified. The collect of the day, the gradual, the verse. These are the propers that are assigned according to the lectionary. And this is where it's really helpful, even if you are not using Builder to plan your services, to have a free account, because you can easily look these up. And you can easily look them up on your phone too. It's very nicely modified for mobile devices. In fact, before we launched the online version, we had this part of it done. So we launched what we call Lutheran Calendar. And Lutheran Calendar was a free tool that provided all of this. And then when Builder was done, we said, all right, actually, we're going to move this over and say it's Builder, because it was Builder from the beginning, but we wanted to release this as soon as possible. So that was in 2017. All right, so you've got your propers. just checking everything seems to be going good on the questions. So good to have Tim there answering. So we're going to continue on with plan the service. And I apologize, I am spending too much time. This slowing down thing is, we've got a lot still to cover, but we've got time still. That's why I plan 90 minutes. And Tim's got the questions, and I'm also happy to stay a little longer. All right, so when I go to plan the service, and I probably should have identified that, up in the top right corner, you've got plan the service. When you click on plan the service, it takes your propers and kind of hides them away, puts them under this link here. You can stick it back to them. But it gives you a service plan. And the service plan has a number of different things here. It's got your readings that are automatically assigned from the holiday. It's got your hymns, which you can assign, your order of service, additional rites, and your notes. We'll talk about all of those in a second, but I want to go down here. You see, change name, date, or holiday. If you plan something and then you need to change it, this is where you go. And it's that same screen before for a new service, but this is editing it once you've started the service plan. And so maybe you don't like to spell out there. Maybe you want 3RD. I don't know why, but you can change that there. And that'll change it for you elsewhere. And there's a few places that this will be helpful. Or maybe you want to make a copy of it. Maybe you have two different services that are very similar. You're going to plan out one entirely. You can make a copy of it and then tweak it afterwards. Or maybe you want to delete this service. You can delete that there as well. So you've got a few options. Now, I want to highlight one thing real quickly. If you have a service that is not tied to the lectionary, maybe it's a funeral. You're doing a funeral on a Tuesday. You can go here under holidays and see that there are also occasions. So there's a funeral, and you could put the name like funeral of John Smith. Just put a basic name there and plan that service. That'll take you to a service plan with no readings in place. The propers for the funerals are not there. There are no propers for it, but you can then add your own readings, your own hymns, your order of service is already selected. So I want to highlight that. We're not going to get into that too much because we're focused on planning out the third Sunday of Easter. All right, so first off, the readings. We've got the propers already in place. When you click on one of the readings, you're going to get on the far right-hand side of the search bar. And it's going to say here, readings for Easter 3A. This is directly from the lectionary, and it's going to match everything that's there. So if you are going to do a new service that is not based on propers, but you assign that holiday, you can see those there in the search. But you can also see suggestions for the other services around it. So Easter 2 or Mark and Philip and James, those are different days in the church year where we observe the disciples, many other people. But then you also have suggestions for Easter 4. So if you wanted to look ahead, you could look ahead. We'll clear that out. Or sorry, that was looking behind Easter 4. So you can click on these and see these other readings, but you could also then go and type in your own. So like here's the Luke reading. Maybe you don't want to do all of that. It can be a little bit long. We can see what's all included in this. We'll click this preview button in the far right-hand corner, show hide preview. It slides it over. So 24, 13 to 35. Well, this is the road to Emmaus, and there's really no way to cut that up. And that's why we have one reading. But let's say we incorrectly wanted to cut it up. You could go in here and just shorten it and say, well, I guess the hymn number or the verse numbers aren't displayed in there. But you could go in and say, let's just do Luke 24, 13 to 16. If you do that, it will shorten it up. Wow, that's really short. Let's do 13 to 20. It will shorten it up and show you exactly what you've got there. What's also fun though is that you can look here. Yeah, this is a better example. So Luke 24, 13 to 49. This is kind of what I was thinking. I should have previewed that better. Where you've got two different sections of scripture, and you really could cut it down here and just do 35. And in fact, the lectionary does that on some days. But what I wanted to highlight is that you can type it in and put exactly what you want as the reading. You don't have to go with the propers, or you could add your own and type them in that way. And so whether you are doing it on a service and just changing the readings a little bit, whether you're doing a sermon series or something like a funeral where you're picking your own readings, you have that flexibility. Now, hymns are a little bit different. Oh, I should clarify something. Let me go back here before I forget. We get this question a lot. Well, at my church, we use the NIV. Can I bring the NIV in here? As much as I would like to tell you, sure, pick your translation, we can't as a publishing house. We are the publishing arm of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, and the official version of the Bible or translation of the Bible that we use is the English Standard Version. And in fact, because of copyrights with things like the NIV and all the different versions of that, legally we can't bring in other versions. We can't, without agreeing to copyrights and everything with them, without contractually aligning ourselves with these other organizations, we couldn't bring it in here. And because of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod recommending the ESV, we can only do that. So we get that question a lot. Technically speaking, you are right. There's really no good reason why we couldn't just bring in another Bible. But legally and theologically and all of that other fun stuff, we can't do that. So that will be disappointing for the churches that have a bunch of NIV Pew Bibles and want to make sure that it aligns. We just can't do that. So I wish I had a better answer for him, but I know that's probably going to come up. And yep, there's one of what Bible versions use for these scripture readings. So yeah, exactly. So Linda, that is the English Standard Version, the ESV. All right, let's move into hymns. So hymns over here. When you click on hymns, you get a number of things in the search. The first thing is creative worship. And I probably should have turned that off before because that is a separate kind of content. We'll talk about that on session 4. But I'm going to scroll down a little bit and show here. The first thing that'll show up would be the hymn of the day. Now, the hymn of the day is considered to be a proper. It's not quite the same as the other propers, but it is selected. There is a selected hymn for every day in the church here. And so the hymn of the day, 483, with high delight, let us unite. So I will select that. I'm going to go and add another hymn. So the hymn of the day, there's a place for it in the service if we're using the divine service. So I want something for the beginning of the service. So as I look here, the next thing I have are hymns for the readings. Now, these are hymns that for one reason or another has or I shouldn't say that. Within the hymns, there's a stanza that references one of these readings. We can't necessarily explain exactly which one it is for each reading because there are often various readings here, more than, well, usually there's only 4, but still, it's from a UI perspective, the user interface, it's hard to put all of that information in there. But if you click on something, and so let's say we were wanting to do this one, who are you who walk in sorrow? If I click on that hymn and I go to preview, I've got a bunch of information about this hymn. I've got the text, I've got the melody. I can even preview the melody. I don't know if you can hear that. Probably pretty light. It's a little MIDI file that just gives you the tune. But you can see the melody there, and then under info, there's a lot of different information there. So we have our authors, we have our tune, Southern Harmony is the tune. It tells you where it's from, or in the case of the author, the birth and death date, and we are updating those as we find out if someone has passed away. We have the copyrights. In this case, the text is copyrighted by the National Association of Pastoral Musicians, and the tune is public domain. The tune name is Jefferson. There's a meter of 8787D and a key of G. Now, those are things that music people know about. I can't tell you much more than that, other than I know a little bit about what it means, but not enough to verbalize it. There's related topics, and as you could suspect, this one has Easter as one of the related topics. But here's the key thing. If you look at the stanzas, there are scripture references, so the verses that it applies to. And each stanza here, except for stanza 5, ties back to that Luke reading. So this is a really good reading to include. Now, because of the readings, it is suggested on these days in the church year that are all Easter, as you can imagine. Again, Easter 3, but then also Easter evening on ABC and the one-year lectionary. And so that will show up because of the readings. And if it didn't show up, it would show up here under other suggested hymns because it's tied to this day in the church year. So you've got a number of different suggestions to really narrow your focus down. So even if you are not an expert at Lutheran hymnody, even if you don't have the hymnal memorized, like many of you do, you can still find an appropriate hymn and narrow your search based on things like the readings or the day in the church year. Now, another thing that's helpful over here, and I don't have a lot because this is not a real church account, this is a test account, but you have this little icon next to it. Most of them on mine say NA, but here's one that says 2 years. When I click on this, this tells you how many times, or how long it has been, I should say, since it was last used in a service. So it was last used 2 years before this service. And it'll tell you exactly what day it was used, Pentecost 13. Now this one's God of God, O Light of Light, not the one we were talking about before, which would not really apply on Pentecost. And then this one down here is 16 months, but it was used 2 different times. So you can see the history of how often you've used these hymns as you're searching. So you might want something new, or you might want something familiar. It helps you understand both of those things. So as we go through here, we can add more hymns for different reasons. So that one was based on the readings, but what if we wanted an appropriate hymn for today, or for this day in the church year, that is also appropriate for the beginning of the service? Well, that's where search comes into play. And for search, I'm actually going to go over to our global search. If I click this global search button, I get the same kind of experience, except it's zoomed out. Now, I want to caution you, if you are using global search, that is just to do the hymnal search engine that we talked about before. It is not to apply the search results to your service. So I'm going to search for a hymn here. I'm going to find that hymn, but I can't automatically apply it to my service because this is taking a step back and saying, I just want to search everything. It's not within the context of anything else. You see this filled my screen here. If I hit the X, I go back to my service plan and I still have the search over here. But I want to show you what that global search looks like because there's a few other things I'll show you as we go. So the first thing is when you first click in here, you've got some kind of helpful hints on how to search. You've got things like search any word, search exact phrases where you put those quotes around it, the Bible references, or the hymn number. All you have to do is type in the hymn number and it'll show up. But then you have other things like filter by type, topic, tune, meter, liturgy, author, copyright, holiday, series, category. All of these are very helpful. Now, as we look here, the first thing I want to do is I'm looking for hymns. So I'm going to type in #hymns, or if you're in an older generation, you might call that the pound symbol. I'm a millennial, so for me, that's hashtag. But I'll do #hymns, and I'm going to narrow my search to just hymns right now. And then the next thing I'm going to do is type in holiday. Oops, space. You'll notice that when it is a proper search, it'll be green. Now my computer's going a little slow. There we go. It'll be green. All right, now I'm going to click space and say, but I also want holiday : wow, that's going really slow. And then I'm going to say, quote, Easter 3, end quote. That is also proper. So when I click enter, it's going to give me all the hymns that are appropriate for this day in the church year, what we just saw a few minutes ago. In fact, when you're clicking on hymns, add hymn under the service plan, it is pre-filtering your list to these right from the beginning. And then if I want to do topic, we can say beginning of the service. Now I don't have to type these all out. I can just go down here and click this and it'll add that in. And then I'll hit enter. And look at that. I have a number of hymns that are appropriate for today. So you see hymns for the readings on Easter 3 or other suggested hymns. Lord, open now my heart to hear. If I go over here to info, I get the related topic of beginning of the service, and I also get suggested on Easter 3. That is a really good hymn for this day. And if I look here, it's hymn 908. Now I can just go back here. Let's say I knew that. Let's say I knew my hymnal so well that I know 908 is the hymn that I want. All I have to do is type in 908 and it'll automatically add that. Now I could do that same thing over here. Add a hymn, clear out my search, topic, beginning. And you'll notice that as I'm typing, it kind of pre-fills some stuff. If I just hit tab, it fills it the rest of the way. I'm gonna hit enter. Now this takes me from my filtered search and gives me everything that's beginning of the service. So I still would need to do holiday. Yeah, see, this is why it's all the way over here in the corner. It's hard to see. And then Easter 3 to get back down to where I was before. It's filtered by hymns no matter what, but adding in a new search takes it out of that, that holiday view and gives you everything with your search criteria that is a hymn. So it takes a little bit of an adjustment to get used to, but it's really powerful. Because again, if I clear this, it shows me everything that I can search by. The categories are the LSB hymn categories. You've got your series, if I wanted to filter it by series A. You've got author and composer, all of these different things. All right, my goodness, time flies. So looks like we've got some questions in there. I'll be jumping in on them in a little bit. I want to go down, let's see, is there any other hymns? Yeah, those were the 3 hymns that I wanted to search for right now. Now, if you don't want to go outside, if we're doing something like a distribution hymn, it's important to know what type of search to look for. So topic, if I typed in communion, I'm not going to get anything, which might surprise you. There's no communion hymns? Well, there is. We just don't have all of the different words. So the Lord's Supper right there. We have communion hymns. We just call them the Lord's Supper hymns. And you can see all the different ones that have the topic of the Lord's Supper in it. So I would encourage you, as you're looking at different things, to be sure to look at the different options that are available before saying, well, this probably isn't there. Or just type in some different things. So if I was looking like supper, it's there. Holy baptism. I might know to type in baptism. I may not know to type in baptism or holy baptism, but you've got 3 different baptism topics. You have baptismal life, holy baptism, the baptism of our Lord. So I would encourage you to just search for different terms. You'll get used to that pretty quickly. But if it's not exactly what you're thinking of, there, make sure you are trying some different things. Now, if you're looking for an exact phrase, so like thy strong word, I'll let the screen catch up with my typing. Oops. If you're looking for that exact phrase, just know that it is searching for that exactly. But if you're looking for like an inexact phrase, thy strong word without the quote, you're going to get some different ones in here. And it's going to try to show you why that showed up. So if you say thy strong word, well, why is eternal Father strong to save showing up? Or Lord of all nations, grant me grace. That doesn't have any of those in the title. Well, in the text itself, it has that. So it's incredibly powerful, but like any search engine, when you have a lot of different variables, you're going to get a lot of different results. So I recommend that you test it out, use some different search criteria, stack them together like I was doing. You can do really some powerful searches to get really granular, but it takes some time to figure those out. All right, moving on, I'm going to go to order of service. Right now it is set as empty, but if I click on it, you'll see all of my different options here. Now I have the divine service with our 5 settings. I have the daily offices here, Matins, Vespers, morning prayer, evening counseling. We have the service of prayer and preaching, that relatively new order of service that was put in the Lutheran Service book. There There's funeral service, litany. There's a whole bunch that goes in here. I would encourage you to look down this list because this might give you some ideas of, oh, I never even thought to use Lutheran Service Builder for this. If you, some of these services you might go straight to the altar book to find, but I would recommend looking in here. Holy matrimony, you have holy matrimony, blessing of a civil marriage, anniversary or affirmation of holy matrimony. There's a lot of different options there. And if you want to see what they look like, so let's say here, individual confession and absolution. All I have to do is click on that and then go to the preview and you will see what's all included in that. And you can kind of go through, there's a lot of great stuff in here. So again, my point of showing this is one, to show the preview that you can get in there, but also to encourage you to take a look around and see what's there. There might be uses beyond just the simple Sunday morning services. I typically go with Divine Service Setting 1 just because I'm familiar with that. I've done enough trainings on that there's no surprises. And then down here you have Add Rite. Now, this is a little bit beyond what we're going to look at today. This will go into planning, or actually putting together, preparing the bulletin or the presentation. But as you go down here, you can see the different rites that you can add into the service. Farewell and Godspeed of a Lutheran teacher or certified church worker. That is something that happens often at this time of the year as the school year winds down and people are maybe taking a different call to another school. You might want to add that as a rite in there. This will tell you where to add it in. So that'll be something that we'll cover tomorrow or session 2, but I want to highlight this here. All right, I'm past my 75 minutes. I'm going to go a little bit over because Tim has done a fantastic job of keeping up with the questions. So we've got notes here. And I often get questions like, well, what should I put in there? Well, what do you want to put in there? Notes is an open field. It's available for you to use how you'd like to do it. So I suggest putting in things like who is preaching or the topic of the sermon. If it's not tied to the lectionary, but you have a general idea of what you want to preach about, you can put that in there. If there's special music going on, you might say at 10:30 we have handbells, which means at 8 o'clock we don't. So there should be something else there. This is really a good place for the different users of the software to get in here and share some notes with each other. Now, I'm really excited to see what we can do with this in the long term. I don't get a lot of feedback about notes. Part of it is that it's so flexible. You just type in here and you can keep typing. You don't really have a limit. If there's a limit, it's not a small number by any means. But I'd be curious if there's other things that we could do to make this better for you. So be sure to let us know as you're using notes. It just stays with the service and is a place to put things where you don't have a place to put it elsewhere. All right, let me look at my list here. We've covered just about everything. The last thing that I want to do is go back to this global search. There are a number of different ways to use Lutheran Service Builder, and that's putting it lightly. We have built it that way to be flexible for you. And so I wanted to show the service planning first before I showed the global search, because I have found users who think the only way to use Lutheran Service Builder is through this global search. And what I mean is they prepare their bulletins in a word processor like Microsoft Word or Publisher, and they use Lutheran Service Builder to export content to copy and paste. And the way they do that, I'll just go to Mighty Fortress, is they will search for something, they'll find it, and they'll say, all right, here is the hymn that I want. I'm gonna go with, these stanzas. We'll cut out stanza 3 just for demonstration purposes. And I'm going to export this to Microsoft Word, and I'm going to put this in my bulletin. And it works great. We'll pull this up. If you are subscribed to Lutheran Service Builder, it will allow you to export single elements like this. Sorry, Microsoft Word is being a little bit slow. There it is. And I can go and copy and paste this into my bulletin. And you know what? That is a completely acceptable use of Lutheran Service Builder, because We put this out there for you to search. We put it out there for you to export. When you export, copyright requirements are submitted. Everything is great. What I don't want you to do is think that this is the only way to use Lutheran Service Builder, because there's so much more. And I've had people surprised to say, oh my goodness, I could do my whole service in here? Yes, yes, absolutely you could. This was the initial vision of Lutheran Service Builder, or met the initial need of a hymnal search engine. But Bob quickly realized that you could plan the whole service because all of these different elements work together. So I just want to caution you, if you are only using this, step outside of this and try some different things. This is completely acceptable. We put this in here because it works and it's handy. You know, if you're going in here and let's say Holy Baptism, and oops, apparently I hit the caps lock button. You know, you can get your hymns on here. You can get the different prayers if you wanted to export a prayer, anniversary of baptism. Yeah, this is great to have all of these things in there. You know, even the, oh yeah, I guess we're still in. There's so much stuff here. I was looking for a service right away, and I didn't filter it down. It's great to have these options and to search for things and to use it in different ways. Just know that this is not the only way to use it. I always feel so bad. I feel like we're hiding something when people are going straight to search and putting it in and doing nothing else. So this is a great way to use individual elements. You can export it to the Word or the rich text format. You can print it. It'll open up your print window right there and you can print it out. You could even copy it to your clipboard to make it easier to paste. All of these things cover the copyrights for you and make it really easy. But there's more to it than that. And that's what the rest of the week will be like. So I'm going to switch back to my slide deck for a second. I want to give you a few resources in case you are not aware of them, and then we'll get into some questions. But you can always get help from our software support team in a variety of ways. First off, our online help center. And if I go back to Builder for just a quick second, I can show you this to you down here under I. This little blue I is our information center. It allows you to, oops, we go here like search. We're searching for search. There's the search basics. It'll give you these different help articles where you can get all sorts of different information. We're constantly adding new articles to this and refining old articles. You can get help here. Or you can just click visit our online help center and it'll give you all of the different options. That's one way to do it. Oops, there we go. The next thing is in-app chat. Tim's on the line here. Tim has been our kind of our leader in in-app chat. We started off first, whoops, wrong one. Oh, apparently here we are. You've got that right here. You can go and start a chat and you can chat with our support techs. This is a great way to get some quick help as you're going through here. All right, we'll go back here. You can also email us, support@cts.cph.org. Now, if you prefer to do it from your email, that's great. You can also get to the same thing, click back here by send us a message. I'll put it right in there. Subject, message, priority, and send. And then finally, you see it listed right here. You can also call us at 800-346-6120, Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 5 Central Time. That's going on even while our team is working from home. So we want to be here to help you out. We've got all sorts of different options. Choose the one that works best for you. So I'll leave that on the screen for just a quick second. All right, and we've got a lot of good questions. I don't know if I'll get through all of them, but I've got the time. Hopefully you guys do as well. Looks like Tim has answered just about everything already though. So at least the individuals won't, but I want to answer it for the benefit of everybody. All right, so if you don't want to stay for question and answers, I just want to highlight tomorrow, session 2, bulletins and bulletin formats, same bat time, different bat channel. There's going to be a different link for you. But if you signed up for it, you'll get that link in your email. If you didn't, you can reach out to me. Again, my information is at the beginning. I don't know if I put it at the end, but it's peter.frank@cph.org. Wednesday, we're going to be all about presentations. And Thursday, we're going to really get into the nitty-gritty My Worship resources and other add-ons. So question answers, a few things here. Please type your questions into the GoToWebinar chat. We see it looks like a lot of people are already doing that. It looks like you don't need help learning how. Remember, this is a common question. A recording will be emailed within 48 hours. I'm putting within 48 hours because I'm really going to try to do it within 4. But I like to give myself a lot of leeway. I would guess that it's almost a guarantee within 24 hours unless I have an issue, but I put 48 hours just to be safe. And if you are watching the recording and you can't enter things into the GoToWebinar chat, the quickest way is to go into support@cts.cph.org. All right, so with that, I've left myself 5 minutes for questions. I'm happy to stay longer, but this is why Tim is on the line, because I want to make sure everybody gets it, gets their answers. So let's go ahead. Oops. Need to make this a little bit bigger. All right. Sorry, I'm going to be looking with my head down for a few minutes while I go to find the first one. All right. So the first question, can the services be exported in a JPEG format? This is from Emmanuel Lutheran. They cannot be exported in a JPEG, but when we get into presentations, they can be exported as a PowerPoint file, and that can easily be exported as a JPEG. So you have one extra step in there, but it works out pretty well. Online, is this before the update I just received an email about last week? The online version is the latest version. John is asking that. So hopefully this was right at the beginning of the presentation. Hopefully you got a good idea of what this is. There is no later version than what I showed you today. Okay, good. Dina or Dinah, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, had some very specific questions, but Tim gave her the number. So Brian is asking, I have a subscription of LSB 1. What will the cost be for the online version? I mentioned this at the beginning, but I love to reiterate this. There's no additional fee for the online version. So it's the same subscription fees. We may adjust your subscription start and end date, which means there may be a prorated credit or fee, but it's not additional. Your out-of-pocket expense for the year will be the same regardless. All right. So now that you added the streaming license, we don't need a CCLI or one license additionally to stream, correct? That is correct for our hymns. Anything that's covered under LSB, yeah, Mark is asking that. Anything that's covered under the LSB hymn license is allowed for streaming with a few exceptions that are listed there. Those 9 hymns that I mentioned before. Take a look at the license agreement. Now, if you are using hymns or songs that are not in LSB, and you want to use them and they're covered under a different license, go for it. That's why we put it in there. You still have to pay for that license and you'll still have to report to them. And there's another one related to that I saw before. How do you report to these other ones? That one I can't answer because we don't use CCLI here. We don't use one license, so I can't tell you how to report with them, but they should be able to. Obviously, that's important to them. So I can't go give you those details, but it is completely outside of Lutheran Service Builder, so I can tell you that much. All right, if you still have the licensing from the version 2, does that transfer to the online version? Yes. And one thing I forgot to mention is that there is a very easy conversion path from LSB 2 into the online version. We don't have that with LSB 1, but if you have LSB 2, you can see inside the application where you can upgrade to the online version and it'll bring your database and everything. I should have mentioned that at the beginning, but I'm mentioning it now. So that is something our support team would be happy to help you with too. All right, next up, how many accounts per church? Does it change the price? As many as you want, and no, just remember that it's one church or one church entity. It might be a dual parish, triple parish, multi-site congregation. Those are okay, but if you're using the license from the church down the street, that's not okay. Do you have an app to use on the iPhone? We don't have an app, but we do have a nice mobile site. I don't know if we're going to have an app for this or not because it works so well just going into your browser, but it's something that we're considering. So that is something that Ken asked, and I don't know, it doesn't look like there's an answer for that. So hopefully, Ken, you're still watching. All right. Oh, sorry. I guess I can't hit that button. If I don't see account settings on my builder, does that just mean I'm a user and not an owner? That is correct. So you can talk to somebody else. Probably whoever first set up your account. The first person to set up the account is always the owner. Next question. That was from Marie, and Don had a very similar question. There's the one. Pam was asking about how to report of a CCLI subscription. And then Kelly's asking, is there a cost for the subscriptions? I believe this is referring to the Let Us Pray and Creative Worship. There is for Creative Worship. There's not for Let Us Pray, but we'll cover both of them in session 4. Color codes on the calendar. That is the color of the church year. Michelle is asking that. If more than one user plan a service, do they have the ability to edit others' inputs? Yes, they would be able to change what is in the service plan or in the bulletin or presentation in real time. So if multiple people are working, it's not quite the Google Docs experience where you'll see somebody else changing it, but as soon as the page is refreshed, you'll see those changes. So it's one service, unless you have more than one service, but then they're different services. So yes, they can make those changes. All right, when modifying service formats, I'm gonna pause on this one. Patricia is asking a question that is a bit beyond this course or this class, and Tim gave her the update. So Patricia, if you're still watching, hopefully you'll get that answered. That's beyond today. That'd be a better question for tomorrow. We had a question about the NIV 84. Unfortunately, only the ESV is covered. Most Sundays have one collect of the day, but Easter had 2. Why? Well, I don't know if I can tell you why exactly. It's tied to the church year, and so or tied to the lectionary. So if the lectionary provides 2 options, then you have the choice of those. So I don't know the exact reasoning why. I'm sure somebody with a little bit more experience in worship can tell you that. But Michelle is asking that question. I can just tell you that you'll get that choice when you are entering the collect, and we'll cover that in bulletin stuff tomorrow. Can I print out the propers for prep? Yep, you can do that. Custom liturgy, we'll go into all of that tomorrow. Dun, dun, dun. All right, my pastor doesn't like including the verse numbers. How can I remove those as I can in LSP2? That'll be something covered under bulletin formats. Got a lot of these. Bill missed how I got the melody. Bill, I'll show you that, and anybody else who might have missed it, it is really easy. Let's go ahead and get back in here. All right, looks like that's the one I was planning. So when you are doing a hymn, pretty much anywhere, we're going to preview this. You'll always have the text on the left, and then melody is the next one to the right. And it's going to look different in the bulletins view and also in the presentation view. But if you see the text, chances are to the right, there will be a melody button, and you can go and see that melody. So it's that way when you're selecting hymns, it's that way in the global search. There we go. There's melody as well. All right. Well, I apologize, I'm still going long. I've got all sorts of time, so I'm going to keep going. Thank you for sticking along. Don't feel like you have to stick around, but I'm going to keep answering these questions because I can. So the next one, so the search limits the lectionary for Easter 3, for example. When you are going into add a hymn, and I should have clarified this. I was kind of clunky in how I spoke about this. So here we are on Easter 3, and I go to add a hymn. The suggestions that I get here in this grouping, suggested hymns for Easter 3A, are filtered down by 3. And then it stops. But if I go and search more, if I search for topic Christmas, there we go. I can get Christmas hymns that are not tied to Easter 3 at all. It has kind of overridden that initial search. But when I first click add hymn, the suggested hymns that are showing, and it goes all the way to the bottom, are for Easter 3. Now, what I meant to say before is that regardless of what I type here, so if I type, let's see, I'm trying to think, let's just do baptism. If I type baptism, my results will all be filtered down to hymns because I'm in this hymns section there. So that's what I meant to say. I think I said that it filtered all of them by Easter 3. I meant that the initial view was Easter 3, and then everything else is still filtered by hymns. So I apologize for that. As I was presenting that, I knew I was saying that wrong. All right. The hymns on the screen are not in the correct order for the service. How do I fix that? Oops. Looks like, oh no. Hopefully you can hear me. If you can, I will tell you that I'm having an issue with my GoToWebinar thing. I'm gonna wait a minute to see if it resolves itself. If you can't hear me, then I'm just talking to myself. We'll give it a quick minute. Okay, I think I'm back. Hopefully you heard me that whole time, but if not, I was having issues with my webinar software. All right, let me get back to that. So the hymns on the screen are not in the correct order for the service. How do I fix that? That is a really good question, and I forgot to mention that. The hymns on the screen, and you'll see this more tomorrow, but the hymns here are in the order in which you selected. It doesn't automatically assign them to the different parts of the service, but it is telling you what you are planning to have. And then when you go and prepare the bulletin, that's when you select it. That'll make more sense tomorrow, but it doesn't matter what order they're in. They'll show up in your service plan. Hymn tunes available in searching for hymns, not Concordia organist, just the tune like LSB2. Yes, Richard, Richard, I think, yeah, looks like Tim answered that for you a little bit, but let me show you a little bit more. So if I go here to add hymn, and I clear this out, I can go and type in tune, colon, oops, that's not tune. There we go. If I type in tune, I get all of my different tunes that are available. So when I type in Alabare, there's two different hymns that have that same tune. Now, I'm pretty sure they're the exact same hymn, just different versions of it. Yep. Oh yeah, the text is a little bit different. And so that tune, so like $7.99, I'll click the preview. That's going to be the same as this one here. I don't know if you can hear that. It's coming out of my speakers and then going in the microphone, so it might be a little bit light. But it's the exact same tune for two different hymns that have different texts. They're very similar hymns, so that probably wasn't the best example. But yes, you can search by tunes, and then you can see what different text is available for that tune. All right, can you combine different services into divine services into one service? Linda, that is a great question, and the answer is yes. And as Tim answered, with a custom order of service, we'll be showing that tomorrow. All right, let's see, different question. To create our own order of service with modifications, can it be saved? That'll be a tomorrow question. Can you search for when a particular hymn would be appropriate? Yes and no. I did show that a little bit with the beginning of the service. It just depends on which part of the service you're looking for. So if we go in here to topic, we have like beginning of the service, close of the service, Lord's Prayer or Lord's Supper will be in there. Like readings, that's not really a readings hymn. Sometimes it's like the hymn to depart. If you look for the hymn to depart, it wouldn't be in there. It'd be under close of the service. So it depends on which one you're looking for. Stan is asking that. Paul, why is all of this any easier or better than copying and pasting into a Word document? Well, Paul, I did cover that a little bit near the end. Let's see, that was at 11:17. Hopefully that answered it for you. Is it better, worse? Well, you'll see some more tomorrow, but that's really a matter of perspective, whether it's better or worse. It all can be done. All right. Did you just double click to get the preview? I should have talked about that a little bit more. Thanks. That's asking that. If I click on the hymn, if I double click it, nothing happens because it's a web browser. Double clicking doesn't usually work. So I have to go up here to the show high preview button on the far top right corner. It's a little arrow in a box. It'll bring it in for you. It kind of slides in and you can close it, it slides out. So that's how I got to the preview. Does the note section indicate who added the note? Don is asking that. That's a really good question, and no, it does not. But that's a good suggestion. That's something I'll share with the team. Can I sign up for the next 3 sessions at once? No, unfortunately, with the software we're using, the way it's set up, you do have to do it each time. That's because not everybody wants to sign up for all of them. I could have set it up so that you sign up for all of them at once. But even looking at how people have signed up, I know some people only are wanting certain parts of it. So I didn't do that. So I apologize. You will have to do them individually. All right. Marie is asking, how do I export Psalms with pointing? That'll be something for tomorrow with more detail. But let's go up here real quick to the global search. That's a good question. I don't know if that comes into here or not. I think that is just... Yeah, I don't think you can do that with the pointing here. That has to be part of a service. So yeah, and I think that's what Tim said too. Yeah. So Marie, sorry, I don't have a way of you doing that from global search, but we will be showing that within the service tomorrow. And so if you're using it for something outside the context, you could create a real basic custom liturgy, and we'll look at that tomorrow. All right. Tony's asking that same question. I know everybody's getting ready for tomorrow. Can I create my own order of service? Yes, yes, you can. Brian's already left. He said, what is necessary to change from software to the online version? Well, you can talk with one of our software consultants. The real thing that's necessary is a license agreement and getting your licenses aligned by date. So Dave or Steven are 2 guys who are happy to help you with that. You can reach out to support and they'll put you in touch with them. You can reach out to me and do that as well. Can a retired pastor not on staff at a church download a trial subscription? Yes, absolutely. Daryl, you are welcome to try it out. You do have to be associated with a church to subscribe. There's a few exceptions that we have, but that we'd have to talk about those individually. Retired pastors who are moving from church to church, unfortunately, cannot have their own subscription because our licenses are for use in the context of a congregational worship service. And so it has to be a subscription of the church, but you can sign up for your trial on your own. All right. Can services be exported as a publisher file? Joan's asking that. That'll be for tomorrow, but the answer, unfortunately, is no. However, publisher will bring in Word files pretty easily, and we can export to Word. All right. Jane is asking about the pricing, and the pricing is available on our website. Right down here, we're not going to get into that too much because this is training, not a sales thing. But you can go and look at the pricing and hopefully I explain the licenses enough that you can figure out exactly what you'll need. All right, let me put this back up here. See you tomorrow. Need to insert the bulletin into the purchase cover from CPH. Any thoughts on that procedure? Yes, I do have some thoughts, and I will share those tomorrow. Paul, that's a little bit beyond what I can share during the Q&A, and it's definitely tied in with what we're talking about tomorrow. All right. Just a couple more on here. Oops, me. Michael says, which streaming and when streaming, and we would like to use an instrumental accompaniment for the hymns, how do we appropriately do that? For example, an organ accompaniment played during the online service, accompaniment found on the internet. Well, that last line kind of scares me, the accompaniment found on the internet. You'll want to make sure you're covered on your own for that, but any sort of accompaniment, musical accompaniment that you find on the internet or that you purchase from somewhere like CPH, you want to make sure that you have a good understanding of those copyrights. So none of those things are automatically included with the hymn license. But depending on who owns the copyright, you could find it online and it could be public domain, or the person who owns the right says, feel free to use this. Those are the things that you'll want to find out so that you're covered. And those are going to be a case-by-case basis. But if you do have questions, the best way to find out is to ask our copyrights team. And the information is on cph.org, but it's copyrights@cph.org. And the phone number, which I don't have off the top of my head, is available on our website as well. I'd start with them. They are super knowledgeable and can point you in the right direction if they don't know the answer. Does LSB have a collect feature, such as here is the number CCLI licensed music we have over the past year? Oops. Oh, those are two questions. Does it have a collect feature, such as here is the number? I believe all of the collect numbers are available within search, but I don't remember what format those are. And Keith is asking that. I'll check into that for tomorrow as we're planning out the different collects. And then CCLI music we have used over the past year, past reporting period. I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, but you can look it up over him, not necessarily by license, although that's a good idea. That's something I'll add to our feedback. You can't export any kind of reporting based on license at this time. Okay. How to export to publisher, that I know it'll be 2 steps, but how? Joan is asking that. Yeah, you export it as a Word document, and then within publisher, you open that Word document. I can't show you that right now, but if there's time tomorrow with the Q&A, maybe I can. It's been a while since I used publisher. So, but yeah, you can bring that Word document in. Okay, yeah, good. There's all the comments about I can hear you from when I was having trouble with my screen. Yeah, sorry about that. All right. Let's see. The last oh, collection feature, Keith is saying. Not a collection feature. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that. If you want to put a little bit more detail in the chat, Keith, I can try to help you with that. Stan said, what I actually wanted to ask was, when in the church or occasion would it be appropriate to sing a particular hymn? Oh, Stan, I'm sorry, I misunderstood that. All right, so let me show you, Stan. Here we go. Nope. We go into search. And we will just go to Mighty Fortress. So we'll look at this 2 ways. At a hymn level, under info, that's 3rd tab here, you have these suggested on. These are all of the different days in the church year. And as you can expect, Mighty Fortress is our God is appropriate in A, B, or C on Reformation Day. Now, if you wanted to see what was appropriate for Reformation Day, you would search holiday Reformation Day, and it will give you all of the different hymns. And as you might expect, Reformation Day, or Mighty Fortress is our God, is there for hymn of the day. So you can look at it both ways. So if you know the holiday, search for it under holiday, or if you know the hymn, go under hymn, info, and look under suggested on. So I hope that helps you. That was much easier. All right. Garrett wasn't able to attend the whole thing, but he's looking forward to the recording. All right, I've got a couple of questions about remaining classes. Let me show you where to go. So you go to our website, lutheranservicebuilder.com, which will take you to music.cph.org/Lutheran-Service-Builder. That's why we say lutheranservicebuilder.com. And you can go to training. So if you're going right to the home page, let me start back here. Right to the home page, go down here to training. We've got these 3 here that you can register for. Now, I'll warn you, if you're watching this, do this today, because tomorrow or at midnight, this next one will drop down under recordings of previous webinars. See, here's today's, the one we're doing right now. The recording's not available yet because I'm still doing it. But the way we have this scheduling set up, it automatically drops it down the day of, which makes it a little bit different. I got to talk to our team to see if we can fix that. But the 3 are available right now. And I will put a link in the follow-up email at the recording to encourage you to sign up for these. So this is where you go to our website, go here to register, and fill that in. All right. Oh gosh, Keith, a collection feature that would allow one to do reporting to CCLA and other licensing agencies. That's okay. Thanks for clarifying that. We don't have that right now, but it's a really intriguing idea. It's something that, well, as I say with programming, everything is possible with time and money. It seems like it's something that is within the realm of possibilities, not necessarily on our priorities right now, but I'll share that with the team and see. Our programmers are so talented and they have such creative ways of doing things that I never want to limit them, because there's been things that I've thought were too difficult that they say, oh, yeah, I can have that done by the end of the week. And then there's other things where they seem pretty simple to me, and that's going to take a little while, and then they explain why. So I never like to say for sure, but I can share that with them. And then what we do is we look at it across all of our priorities and see what happens when. There's actually a large number of things that happen on the back end that users never see, where we are improving things or updating our back end systems, our servers, our databases to make things more efficient. As the internet changes, there's always new upgrades that we have to put in place, or security updates. So there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that you'll never see in the software, but you'll definitely take advantage of as you're using the software. So I use that as kind of the, I don't know, it's kind of the reason why things don't always happen immediately, because there's lots that is going on. All right, so I think I got everything, and if I missed it, I apologize. So if I missed it, please feel free to send something here, or I will put my information back up on the screen, peter.frank@cph.org. So if you need to email me, go ahead and email me. Usually on webinar days, I get a lot of emails, so I may not respond right away. But with that, I want to say thank you very much for watching. I enjoy doing these. I enjoy it when we have a large audience with lots of questions, so thank you for being here. And I hope you join us tomorrow as we'll dig into bulletins and bulletin formats. Special thanks to Tim for answering all of those questions. And once again, thank you for attending. Have a great rest of the day.